Hello and welcome back to the Building HVAC Science podcast. I think you know by now it's our goal, it's our hope, it's our will to help create better, more knowledgeable HVAC and building performance technicians. By helping the two professions better understand each other, this podcast aims to make customers happy in the homes and buildings they live and work in through the efforts of the contractors and technicians and the pros that listen to this podcast. So thank you. Well, this podcast gives me a lot of fun, a lot of joy. And one of the episodes that we recorded recently, what we're talking about today, was with one of the manufacturers, one of the newer manufacturers working with the TruTech, but not a new manufacturer by any means. How can I sit down with Jeff, Cherif, and Dave Madden from JB Industries? Now, they're a long-standing U.S.-based HVAC tool manufacturer with deep roots in Aurora, Illinois. Jeff will share with us his fascinating story from a Motorola executive in Dubai to the co-owner of JB Industries, sparked by just a chance rooftop encounter with one of JB's own vacuum pumps in the Middle East. David also brings a multi-generational connection to the business and reflects on the evolution of JB's manufacturing ethos and engineering depth. The conversation dives into what sets JB apart, a true commitment to American manufacturing, ultra-durable tool designs, and strong feedback loop with HVAC contractors. Dave and Jeff share stories behind new product development, including their latest lines of wireless probes, the compact class, and a replaceable sensor micron gauge. It comes from listening to field pros who have fresh ideas. It's a heartfelt and detailed look at the company who stays grounded in principles while pushing innovation forward. Okay, let's get into this episode with Jeff and David from JB Industries. They're talking about Built to Last, how JB Industries keeps it made in America.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Building HVAC Science podcast. Eric Kaiser here. Bill Spohn right over there. And today we've got a couple of special guests with us from JB Industries. We've got Jeff, Cherif, and Dave Madden. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Hopefully I didn't butcher Jeff's last name too badly.
No, you got it right.
All right. I love it when I get them right.
Fantastic. We've been eager to have you come on board the show, talk with us. I personally, before we started here, I said, hey, Jeff, I want to dig into your backstory because I found it so interesting when I first met you. And then we'll give Dave a chance to talk about his background. But Jeff, how did you end up sitting where you are? I don't mean today, but just in general.
A typical high school job through a buddy that has turned out to be a lifelong friend and now a business partner. But it was hey, you want a summer job? Come work at a factory. I knew nothing about HVAC. I knew nothing about the industry itself. And I was in the pump repair department. And I used to bring skids of pumps in and take them up to the repair department. And then I worked my way around shipping and around the old factory. And turns out that was JB Industry in 1979, 80, 81. And my buddy his dad was one of the partners at the time, one of the three partners in JB. And I went off to college. He came to college as well. We were college roommates. He went into the family business and I went down a different career path for 20 plus years.
But I remember you telling me something that brought you back around, that brought JB in this industry back into your crosshairs when you were traveling with your other career.
I worked for Motorola for 20 years, and the better part of that, the last 15 of it was overseas. And at the time, as you know, cell phones were booming and we're building out networks all over the place. And I was actually based in the Middle East at the time. And Ron called me up one time. We're buddies all along, always close friends, and said his dad and at the time one other partner, Lee Larson, had gotten to a stage in their career, like probably so many businessmen at some point, where they were maintaining the business, but really weren't pushing it, weren't trying to grow it. And he was asking if we would be interested in potentially trying to do something. At the time, maybe it was just working there, but that evolved into, hey, is this something we could buy? And would the guys help us? Because we certainly didn't have the financial whereabouts to do it at the time. But one thing led to another, and I had a conversation with my wife at the time, and she was a little shocked to be leaving Dubai and getting rid of Motorola for manifolds at the time and was Ron stood up in our wedding and she's like, okay, you guys are going to be business partners. She'd known him for a long time. And that led to us purchasing the company in 2005, and 2006 was our first full year.
Very good.
Motorola to manifolds. That sounds like a title for an autobiography or something later on.
Or at least a bumper sticker.
It could be. In hindsight, if you look at what happened to Motorola, it was a good decision. But at the time, if you have a quick minute, we were going out to discuss it, and we were living in a villa across the street from the beach there and had a pretty good life. I'd been with Motorola a long time. I was running the region there, and one of our mini splits up on our roof, which was a Mitsubishi, they dominated at that point, was out, and our repairman was up there fixing it. Everybody rented villas at that point. And as we were driving out to have dinner to discuss a pretty big change in our lives and a move, I look over and I see a box, and it's a vacuum pump, and it's a JB vacuum pump. So I asked the gentleman to come on down off the roof, and I asked him, where'd he get this pump? And he told me down in the local market. And I said, well, why did you get that vacuum pump? And he said, oh, sure, it's the best pump on the market. It's the only pump that can withstand the heat here. I can fix it. And my brother is in HVAC in Pakistan, and I bought 10 of them and sent them to him, and he's had them for many years. I will not buy any other vacuum pump.
Wow.
And my wife at the time swore that was a setup. But for sure, there's no way that's a true story. And there's what led us to me calling my buddy and saying, hey, where did this come from? And it was sold to someone in Miami that sold it to an importer that sold it to somebody that sold it to this gentleman. And with 3 steps in the chain, it was still purchased, probably the equivalent of a guy's month's salary at the time, but that's what he chose to use.
What an awesome story. Well, Dave.
Yeah, it's a tough act to follow there, huh?
Yeah, what can you do for us here?
Somewhat similar story, other than I wasn't in Dubai. I was always in Illinois or Maryland. But yeah, I worked at JB summers as well. It started out mowing grass. Then as I went through engineering school, it migrated from running machines to doing engineering drawings. And I didn't know it then, but it was a really good education, both in HVAC and in what JB is all about. But like Jeff, I did go on to work for Fortune 50 companies, AT&T, NCR, Sun Microsystems. And about 12 years into that career, I ran into my old friend, who's Jeff's friend, Ron Hill. And I said, hey, we need some help at JB. We're growing. Would you consider coming on board? And at that point, I had engineering and IT skills. Both were needed by JB at the time. So I did some soul searching with my wife as well, and left a large company and came on to JB. And that was 27 years ago, and I've not regretted it. It was a great move. And even before that, if there's any old timers listening, there was a company called Madden Brass, which is the predecessor to JB Industries, and that was my grandfather. So there is some lineage there as well. And we've all come back full circle, and it's kind of a neat story.
And you're director of engineering and operations, so everything falls under you from a manufacturing design standpoint?
Yeah. We've got several engineers, manufacturing engineers. Yeah, they fall under me because I've been here a long time and just have an inch deep in everything JB does from a manufacturing engineering standpoint.
And you're located in Aurora, Illinois. I've had the chance again. Thank you for the invitation. Been out there to visit your factory. That's kind of unique too. So can you speak to a couple words on that?
Yeah, and we do a lot of plant tours. That's something Jeff, when he came on board, was very proud of. And today it's even more so, right, with what's going on. But yeah, we love to walk people through the factory. A comment we hear often after the tour is, well, I didn't think we did that in this country any longer. We're a heavy manufacturer, screw machines, horizontal mills, vertical mills. And we don't just say we don't do some light assembly, we do heavy manufacturing here. And it's an older facility that was repurposed, and it was great for the area. We're about 45 miles west of Chicago, hired a lot of people. And one thing I'd like to point out too is our partnerships with our suppliers. 85% or more of products are made here at JB in the USA. And for the components that we can't do, like we're not a brass forger, we're not a powdered metal house. So for those disciplines that we either don't want to or can't bring under our roof, what we do is we try to find a company that's just like JB. So we have most of our partners are Midwest-based American companies, from Tennessee Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. So we can call them up, we can go visit them, and just have outstanding, in some cases, 50 plus year relationships with some of our suppliers, which really are partners at this point.
That's amazing. You mentioned 50 plus year relationships. Jeff, how long has the company been going? I mean, even going back to even the Madden brass.
Madden brass, Dave, is that 1964?
Yeah, I think 64, 65 is when the transition started occurring. But yeah, that business is probably during the 50s for sure, maybe even after World War II. So if you add those two together, which are different companies, but yeah, it's been going a long, long time.
JB was founded in 1967, and Greg Brenda, who was a part of Madden Brass, which was sold to Robinair, a name that everybody knows, but not so much in the HVAC business anymore, more in automotive. He worked for them for a little while and decided that's not what he wanted to do. And he found a partner in Gero Industries, which, again, the only reason I know it is when I worked there in high school, I used to roll up those old refrigerator gaskets, and that's what they made. And we put them in a box, and that was the JB, Gero Brenda, and that was founded in 1967. And then Lee Larson and Ron Hill Sr. were brought on in the early 70s, Ron Hill Sr. first, and then Lee Larson, and that was the start of a great manufacturing company. They were focused on innovation. Greg Brenda was a tinkerer. He made things. He was there drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes 15 hours a day. My partner, Ron, used to get dragged down there from when he was a little kid. And the tenure in our factory still kind of reflects that. We've got people that have been there 40 plus years. I think our average tenure is 25 years. But as you know, it's a lot harder to make things than it is to buy and resell them. And we truly are a manufacturer.
So JB's done some new things lately, or come up with a new line of products lately in the last year or so. Who wants to talk about those? It's sort of like are very different from your traditional products.
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about those products. If I can add one more thing to what Jeff was saying about manufacturing, the Made in USA, especially now, it's a good tagline and for sales and that. But from an engineering operations perspective, what's really important about the Made in USA to me and our team here isn't just a tagline. It's take a vacuum pump, for instance. They're oil-sealed rotary vane vacuum pumps, as pretty much they all are in our industry. But there's rotors and stators, vanes. Everything has to be precision machined to a very high tolerance. And as Jeff alluded to, we could buy that from overseas and it's already built for us in a box, but we wouldn't have confidence in it. I wouldn't know how to support that product. So the Made in USA to JB Industries isn't a tagline. It is, we can control our quality. We gauge machine every step of the way. We 100% test all of our pumps. And if there is a problem, which invariably there's always a problem here or there, a tool breaks, whatever, we 100% test our vacuum pumps in the line. We don't have to get on an airplane to go fix it. And we walk over to the other department where they were machining that component and say, hey, redo these, re-gauge them, there's something, we have a problem here. So the other aspect of American manufacturing that we really like is we have flexibility. So with this A2L conversion that we're undergoing now, it took us about 8 days to come up with a reverse thread, hose, adapters, because we machine them here. We didn't have to draw them up, send it out, wait for a quote and all that. So quality and flexibility. I mean, if you need a 300-foot hose, we can make it today because we make everything here. So we really like that quality control and the flexibility, and we think that's something that differentiates us from our competitors. So you ask about new products.
Yeah.
Dave, can I add one thing there?
Sure.
And Bill, we're going to get on to new products, but JB's been known for their vacuum pumps forever and for being a leader in that industry. Today, outside of one other manufacturer, which would be Yellow Jacket, Ritchie Engineering, there's not a U.S. pump made in our industry. Yet somehow there are 15 companies carrying them today. So it's something that is, and by the way, they all come from 2 or 3 companies in China. And the European industry went through this probably before we did. They used to have local manufacturers. There's an Italian manufacturer of vacuum pumps. There's a Spanish manufacturer, a German. At some point, they started flooding the market with these vacuum pumps from these manufacturers. They would brand them for you, make them in any color you want. And they used to be cheap, and Europe was very price sensitive at the time. They're not so cheap anymore. And really, that's probably our greatest differentiator is we still make those. As Dave said, if you call JB and have a problem with your vacuum pump, one, you can repair it. Two, you're probably talking to either the engineer that designed it, the repair person that fixes it, or someone in the process that made it. We do think that's a big difference in at least that product category, and that carries on with hoses and access fittings and those types of things that really we're one of the only two that make it anymore in this country. But I'll let Dave talk about some of the newer products as well.
That's a great history to backfill in. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, so in regards to new products, if I look back to when I started 27 years ago, it was vacuum pumps, hoses, analog manifolds, access valves. And there were some other things, but that was the heart of not only JB, but a lot of our competitors. And then I looked even 10 years ago, recovery units, scales, leak detection, vacuum gauges. So yeah, we've evolved over the years. It's an interesting history. A lot of people don't know it. We were the first company to come out with a digital manifold. We had superheat gauges back then because everything was charged superheat. And we had a gauge that measured pressure temperature. We call it the SH31 superheat 3-in-1 gauge. And it had a transducer and a thermistor. And it was really one of the early high accuracy tools out there to start replacing analog equipment back then. But it wasn't integrated into a manifold. It was just a single gauge. So we had the thought, hey, what if we do two transducers, two temperature, and integrate this into a manifold? And people absolutely loved it. So people don't realize it. I mean, JB, this was probably 24 years ago. We had a digital manifold. Now, the downside was the transducers back there were probably for air. And then once we started doing subcooling, liquid refrigerant, the transducers didn't hold up as well as we had liked. Today, we use a laser welded transducer, so the issue has gone away. Had we had that transducer back in the day, we would own that market. So a lot of the newer probes that we have now, people are like, oh, JB's finally getting into this industry. It drives me nuts. Like, no, we created it, or one of the early adopters anyway of this industry. But yeah, so when I do training here at JB, I go through the evolution of 2-valve analog, 4-valve digital wireless manifold, and then into the probes. And people still use all of the above to do their job today. But our new probes, there's a ton of excitement out in the industry. Again, laser welded transducers for pressure, super accurate thermistors for temperature. Now we have manometers. A couple of the hallmarks of our probes, which garnered much attention. One is they have displays. We have focus groups, right? We've sold wireless devices for years now, and we had one, which was a scale that didn't have a display. It was designed wirelessly to be used in conjunction with an app, but the feedback was, boy, I get it. It's designed for an app, but I just wanted a quick reading. My phone died. My hands were dirty. You get all the excuses, and some are valid. So we thought we're making these probes wireless, but that feedback I think is important. And we threw a display on there, and the display shows you your battery life, your Bluetooth signal. There's menus. You can change units of measure. You can do all that without connecting to an app. So our probes are probably the most flexible. You can use them as is, out of the box, or you can connect to an app and use one probe at a time, or you can use the JB Go app or Measure Quick. It's really how it's designed, so they all work in concert, right? So you've got pressure, temperature. We have psychrometers for relative humidity, dew point. You're getting all the data into the app to charges more critical than we've ever had the ability to. And one other feature that I'll just mention on our pressure probe that I love to take credit for all these ideas, but again, we work with contractors heavily. And we're engineers. We know a lot about HVAC, but we're not the experts. So we've had contractors tell us, hey, I love pressure probes are great, but now if I need to add a refrigerant, what do I do? And with other probes, well, you go get a T, you go get a manifold. So we put an integrated charging port right in our probe. So between some of those features and the displays, we've had tremendous success with them.
Yeah, the displays are pretty crisp.
And Bill, it just real quick to reiterate from Dave's perspective, we just didn't have the stomach 20 years ago for the returns we were getting. We make manifolds and pumps, and our return rates are less than 1%. All of a sudden, 20% of our products coming back, and we're going, okay, what's going on here? You know how our contractors treat product, and they're certainly used to throwing stuff in the back of a truck and not worrying about it. well, this is an electronic device. So that forced us to make a decision that technology wasn't quite ready, and we certainly weren't ready for it. As Dave said, in hindsight, certainly a mistake, but it's not a mistake from the standpoint of us understanding and learning and now coming out with products and going and challenging the existing market leaders in this with what we believe is better products, more user-friendly, and ideas from contractors. And the feedback's been great.
So where else do you guys get inspiration for new products when you look at these things, looking at what the market has currently, or do you more look for new things to head for?
It always comes from the field. Usually the guys out there working understand what will make their lives easier. Dave will tell you he dreams it up, and our engineers go home and have lunch and come up with it. And sometimes they do, to their credit. What they usually dream up is how to make it better and then make sure we know how to manufacture it and repeat that with very, very few quality problems. And that's where they're phenomenal. But most of our ideas come from the men and women out working in the field that do this every day. And we have the ability to listen to them. And Dave said we have focus groups, and in today's world, social media, and everybody is talking about if I could only do this and come up with their ideas. And we have lots of agreements with people that have come up with great ideas that have led to products.
Yeah, and if I could add, Jeff, there's one good illustration of that, gentlemen, is a valve core removal tool with a side port. So micron gauge across the industry probably come back more than anything at a higher rate just because they get contaminated with oil or some other contaminants. Again, Jeff said, we take calls from contractors all the time. Someone will be on a roof, they're having a problem, they're not pulling down. They call JB and they'll start with customer service, then a repair department, but they'll eventually get an engineer if warranted. And we kept looking at these micron gauges coming back, and they're contaminated. And as we were talking to the contractors, like, hey, what are you doing? Are you putting these, where are you putting them? We don't want them on a pump unless you're checking the quality of your oil. Preferably, we want them on a side port of a valve core removal tool in the system. And they would say, that's what we're using them for. But they said the problem was I pull down to 500 microns or whatever, and they had no way to get the gauge off because it's just a valve core. So when they took the gauge off, some air would go in. And then I had one contractor tell me, well, what we do is I put low pressure refrigerant in the system and then take the gauge off and a little refrigerant will shoot out. Well, there's the contamination. So just through those conversations, we were like, wait a minute, we need to provide the end user a way to seal that gauge, either take it off and not let air in, or leave it on and not let refrigerant damage it. And that's where we came up with that patented slide valve on the side port. So exactly what Jeff said. Yeah, engineers here came up with it, but it was really through dialogue over the years on a daily basis with contractors.
There he goes, taking the credit.
You mentioned something in there about you have agreements with people that have come up with products. Is that a formalized program where a contractor can come up with a product and contact JB to maybe have their product produced if they want to?
It is. We probably haven't done a good enough job of marketing and advertising that like some other people in our industry. But every day we get users that come to us and say, hey, we have this idea. And we'll sit down and talk to them and go through it. And as you know, everybody has this great idea of a product that they think is going to help them retire. Sometimes it happens, and it's as simple as an umbrella with a magnet on it. Other times it's a little more complicated to make, and their idea is technically sound and fantastic, but a little more difficult to sell, and maybe not as many people having those issues. So we welcome people to contact us. I think we have something on our website that opens that up for reach out to JB with our ideas or any ideas that you have. And we're always looking for something new.
Gotcha.
Again, Eric, one of the things that's unique with us, the first thing we look at it from is the standpoint of a manufacturer. And that makes it a little different. Most of our competitors in our industry will look at that and then they'll figure out how to send it offshore and see if somebody else can make it, and then they'll bring it back and talk about it. Dave and our team has all that capability right in-house. So we end up engineering it, designing it, 3D printing it, deciding how you're going to make it, testing it in the field, and that's all done right here. So one, shortens the time cycle on things, and two, gives us more control and understanding earlier on. And sometimes these ideas aren't great, and we say, thank you very much. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do something. And other times they lead to things.
Gotcha. Well, that's a handy thing because I know there's a lot of people out there, like you said, that are in the field with these ideas, and to be able to have a place where they can go and take them to a potential manufacturer, because let's face it, it's not always easy to spool up manufacturing on your own. And some of the more precision things that we have to do in the world, can't quite make those in the garage all the time. It becomes a little more difficult.
3D printers has certainly helped, but in terms of at least some of the initial conceptual ideas, and we see it in our factory from Dave and the engineers all the time, but it's far more difficult to actually take something and turn it from an idea into reality. That is where we're pretty good at.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get that link from you guys and throw that in the show notes so that everybody can, or anybody that has any ideas, can go there and contact and submit their ideas to you.
Thank you.
You never know what kind of inventors are out there today.
And beyond the business aspects, you also have a charitable program that you work with regularly?
We've always tried to be a good community citizen. We've been in Aurora, Illinois for 56, 57 years and actively participate in supporting local charities. The one that we grasped onto early on was Operation Homefront, and we try and give back a portion of a lot of our American-made products back to Operation Homefront every year, and they're a great charity that supports military families all over the world.
Fantastic.
Speaking of new products, as we did a little bit ago, anything you might want to tease up that our listeners can see coming in the near future? I got to ask.
We're always working on a lot of new things. I don't know how much I could say here because some of the newer things might replace an existing thing, and I don't want to sabotage that. I will say our new wireless micron gauge, it's out, but it's part of the climate class. I mentioned earlier that micron gauges, 90% of them that we get back, we clean with isopropyl alcohol. And we have a pretty good method. Most gauges have a depressor, some have a filter. It's hard to get that isopropyl alcohol through it. So we came up with an idea of a replaceable sensor. So you can get to it way more easily to clean it, but you could also replace it. So if you're on a job and you're just not trusting that micron gauge for whatever reason, you can grab a little tiny sensor. It's just a little digital sensor. That's where all the intelligence is. And you could swap it out, see if you're getting the same reading. And if you're not, then you can take the other one back and clean it easily back at the shop that night. So it's a really neat wireless replaceable sensor. We also launched new vacuum pumps. And I guess at the highest level, the trend I'm seeing, I haven't been here 27 years in the industry, are, how do I say it without being too rude? There's a lot of lipstick on the pig type pumps coming out that look like a new shiny mousetrap, but when you strip them apart, there's still two rotors, two stators, two vanes in each stage, but they're wrapped in plastic and they just look like something different. And from our perspective, maybe our pumps haven't radically changed over the years, but it's for a reason. Most important, we want to make our pump durable. We want a contractor, when they're going to start an evacuation, they hit that power switch. We want the thing to work. We want it to pull down. We don't want them to have to change the oil 10 times on every job. So we're sticking to engineering principles here and not wrapping it, making it less durable just for looks. It's just not who we are. Durability is a huge component. Longevity is a huge component, but so is repairability. Jeff mentioned it earlier. One of our taglines is, hey, we sell to people that fix things for a living. They can fix their equipment too. If they have a JB pump for 20 years and they want to replace the shaft seal, cover seal, the coupler, anything, they can do so easily. You look at the back of our catalog or on our website, you call into our repair department. We have a full complement of repair parts. You could replace the motor in about 3 minutes with 4 bolts and a set screw. Some of these other pumps that are in this fancy shroud that are coming from overseas, they're basically disposable pumps. And the importance of oil, I know you know this, oil is not just a lubricant. That's what people think of. It certainly is. It's a coolant, but most importantly, it's a sealant. So vacuum pump oil is a really low vapor pressure of less than 1 micron. As it gets contaminated, and we'll do this in training, I'll have a pump pull down to 20 microns. I'll start adding a few drops of water in it. It doesn't take a whole lot. Replicating, pulling moisture out of a system. And you can see the oil start to turn cloudy in some cases or dark. And I'll put a micron gauge on the pump, and that 15 microns now is 1,800 microns, just with a few drops of oil. the importance of changing your oil and keeping the pumps clean is critical and being able to pull it down. A lot of calls we get on a rooftop, hey, I can't get to 500. We say, hey, isolate your pump, put a gauge on it. Again, the only time we want a gauge on your pump is to check for the oil. And they say, well, I'm getting about 1,800 microns. I'm like, we ain't going to get the system down to 500 if your pump's at 1,800. So we teach them how to flush the oil properly. So I guess what I'm getting to is a lot of these pumps have 5 or 8 ounces of oil. And people think that's immediately a benefit. Oh, great, I can save oil. It gets contaminated that much quicker. And you can't leave a job. You're going to have to be changing oil constantly. So we're actually going the other way. We have in our new Platinum Pro pump made enhancements. We have a one shot of oil. It takes a quart, and we have an oil puncture on top. So you take a sealed quart of oil, and you just stab the top, and it dumps that oil in a matter of seconds. And then we have a much larger oil drain, which is a 1/4-inch ball valve, which drains 3 times faster than our older pumps. So the objection of, gee, with the JB, it takes a little longer to fill and drain the oil, we've addressed that, and we've made it much, much quicker, but without sacrificing the role of oil in a pump. We'd like to see that amount of oil. We think it makes sense from an engineering standpoint.
Phil, I think the one thing I mentioned earlier, and you see this and know this better than anybody, having been around as long as you have, all of a sudden, everybody has a vacuum pump. You walk through ASHRAE now, and everyone has imported a vacuum pump and made it their color. And for some reason, our contracting base in some instances, and I don't know if it's Instagram or what, they open the truck and they want it all to be red or yellow or orange or whatever the color is. And at times, it's not about picking your best tool. It's, hey, I bought this tool and it was a great tool from this manufacturer, so everything they make must be great. Guess what? They're not making that vacuum pump, and they're not making that hose, and they're not making that access fitting. And we continue to try and talk to our contractors, remind them these tools are not about being pretty. They're about working. It's what's the most effective in the field. Does it matter to buy American? I think so. All of our communities think so, and the thousands of employees that are tied to our manufacturing process and our suppliers believe so. So we do think it's a differentiator, but we have to continue to remind people. As you know, we've become a very disposable society. At one point, pricing was a big delta. That's not the case anymore. So why wouldn't you buy the best you can? And if it's made here, we think that's what people should do. And that's what we're striving to get them to look at.
Made here and repairable. And I dread to mention this because it might start an idea in somebody's head, but HVAC is not a fashion show.
Yep, I didn't want to say that, but somehow it's become that. And I think a little bit of that is social media and Instagram and everything that started to drive that. And I get it if you've got battery technology, so you're making a commitment to a battery in your power tools or something. But that seems to have extended beyond that to just everything that's going on. And it's great on a job site, but as you know, oftentimes you open up a truck and it's jammed with things thrown in there and packed in there. And that's when reliability and durability matter. And if you get to a job site and your vacuum pump's not pulling down, you're not installing that system correctly, you're not repairing it correctly, and the 1 or 2 hours it takes you to go get something else as a replacement tool is more than paid for itself to buy the thing correct up front. To Dave's point, one thing I will say is I love our engineering team. As an owner, there are times I sit there and go, I think we're over manufacturing these because they don't break. And I don't want built-in redundancy in them, but the amount of people that come to us with 20-year-old pumps and say, hey, can I fix this? And I want to say, it's 20 years old. Yes, you can fix it, but could you buy a new one too? So we get a lot of that, but all joking aside, we're very proud of the quality that our team puts into it. And the people making them are crazy about making sure that what goes out the door and we put our name on actually supports it.
Absolutely. As we wrap up here, wanted to grab maybe a couple closing thoughts from both of you. Whoever wants to go first there, it's a jump ball.
Yeah, I'll go first, Jeff. I'll let you finish. Again, I just can't relay enough how USA manufacturing isn't just a sales line. The flexibility and the control that we have over our product and the ability to support it, I think, is paramount. And I tell people as I do plant tours often, and anyone listening, they're welcome, right? We love showing off the plants. We're standing here and claiming we're 100% perfect in every product that ever left the door here. But I will say that 100% of the time that we'll take care of it and stand behind it if there is a problem.
Very good.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, and thank you both for giving us the opportunity to try and continue to push our message and what we do. We've got a video out that if those of you that can't make a tour to JB, we did come out with a video this year to show you the manufacturing facility and give you a taste of it. As Dave said, the door is always open. It's not just a tagline for us, it's a way of life. We learned during COVID where we never closed down for a day. We never missed a beat in terms of our manufacturing. We had a few issues from suppliers, and oftentimes, if we're not making it today, as Dave told you, and if we've had issues, we're going to find a way to try and do it. We're not there completely because our supply chain as a country is not there yet, but we do think it makes a difference. We're going to continue to bring as much in-house as we can. We want to make sure that both our wholesale and distribution channel and the contractor at the end of the day knows we have their back, because it's important if they get to a job site or they have a problem with a product, they know who they're calling. In a time of turmoil and tariffs and everything going on again, it's something that, once again, it proves itself out. Does it matter if a product's made here? We think it does, and we think it's the long-term approach. There hasn't been huge change in our industry. This digital revolution and A2L is something that's a little bit new, but lots of the mousetraps are about, do you just make the best one every day consistently? And whether that's in manifolds or fittings or hose or vacuum pumps or whatever it is, that's what we strive to do. And we're always looking for ideas, and we'll continue to support our employees, which is the backbone of our company, and then our customer base and our partnerships. So we really appreciate the time to at least talk a little bit about JB and remind people that we're not old, even though we've been around a long time. That's, I think, one of the things and one of the challenges, because lots of our contractors, the people that have bought our products for a long time, there's a new wave of people coming in, and it's almost like, okay, do you buy the same thing that my dad did and my grandfather did? Well, when it comes to a tool, the answer is yes. Maybe not a tennis shoe or something else. As you said, it's not a fashion show, but a tool, the answer is they probably knew what they were doing. So we're hoping that message gets out there.
One closing thought from me is people see your products in distribution all over, but where do they see them in person? Like what other trade shows or regionals, or even see you fellows out there in the wild? What are some of the events that you typically go to?
We do counter days, open houses, more than anybody. JB invented, and we've been copied many times, but never outdone in terms of vacuum pump days at all of our local wholesalers. That's done starting now, and there'll be 1,000 of them over the next 3 or 4 months in your region. Reach out to where you buy products from. We really support wholesale distribution. We have one partner that sells online because we think that's important, and TruTech. Otherwise, your wholesale distribution, your brick and mortar, is a place to see our products. It's a place to find out when we have an upcoming pump day. And then, of course, all your regional shows and your ASHRAEs, which just passed here, and the next one will be next January. We're always participating in.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. It was a good, informative episode. Get a chance to speak from the heart as you both did, and I think that's important to convey the message of your fine product line and the company you've built over time. So thanks, Dave. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate you tuning into this podcast. I also host the Res Talk podcast, where you can learn more about home energy ratings and peripheral topics. If you like what you heard today and not subscribe to the podcast, please consider doing so by typing Building HVAC Science into the search bar of your favorite podcast app. You can follow us on Facebook by searching for Building HVAC Science. If you have any questions or want to suggest a topic or have some feedback, reach out to us at marketing@trutechtools.com. That's TRUTECHTOOLS.com. Some of the topics we discuss require technical training for proper interpretation or safe execution. So if you're a trade pro, you can proceed immediately. If you're not, please consult with a pro and hire one. The Building HVAC Science podcast is a production of TruTech Tools Limited. In full disclosure, I'm the owner of TruTech. And the opinions expressed are those of my guests, my co-host, or myself, depending on who is speaking, of course. If you're in the market for tools or test instruments mentioned in the podcast, Look at what TruTech Tools has to offer. That's TRUTECHTOOLS.com. In fact, in the show notes, you'll find links to JB products that are showcased on TruTech's site. Now, you can also use the offer code HVACBS for a nice discount. Thank you for listening and hopefully following us on Building HVAC Science. We look forward to bringing you more interesting episodes in the future. Until then, take care.